October 30th. I can't believe I've done it. I can't believe I've come this far in this. From the day I said, hey, I'm going to do something special on this channel every single night for the month of October. I said I was going to do a video on a Halloween mask. So I came up with 31 days of Halloween masks on the channel, and it's been quite a hit, believe it or not. I didn't know it would get this much response and love by everybody. So those of you that watch this every day when I put these out, I really appreciate it. It was unknown whether this would go over well with people or not, if they would even care to watch. And every day there's more views, and each video is in the hundreds, you know, by now. And it's a cool thing. So I really appreciate all of you checking out the things I show you out of this collection. I've been saving the last 2 episodes for very special masks. Everything I've showed you has been pretty damn special up to this point, but today is something truly special. Masks that I wanted so bad as a kid.
What's the matter? Don't you like them?
Mom already got us masks.
There was 3 of them that came out back in 1982. I wonder what they were. I would see them in Fangoria ads, and I would literally just stare at them like, look at those masks, you know. They're from a movie. I wonder what movie it is.
Watch!
I would stare at those Fangoria ads like a madman. They were like $39 at the time. There was no way I had that kind of money being 10 years old in 82. The movie they were from, I saw the masks before I saw the film. So I'd look at these masks and I'd look at images of the film in Fangoria, these crazy pictures with these, you know, Halloween masks on these kids, and a lot of weird stuff was happening, as a lot of you will know. And I think by the time I saw the film, it was out for almost a year at that point. And when it hit VHS, that's when I saw Halloween 3. The masks themselves were so iconic of Halloween for 3 special reasons. And just the ad they were in, they looked so neat and so weird, and just they just grabbed me, and I wanted them so damn bad. So feast your eyes on this. These here are all original Halloween 3 masks, 1982 and 1983 released masks. There's no reissues here. There's no recasts. These are all legit H3 masks. And as those, a lot of you in the hobby will know, these are quite special and very sought after. These have become quite the collectible over the past 10 years. They were always very sought after by certain people in the hobby, and I always wanted these. Like I said, as a kid, I would stare at this Fangoria ad. I'll show you. And, you know, the thing that grabbed me is, I loved Halloween, the holiday, so much. I'm like, look at this. It's a skull, a pumpkin, and a witch. Like, if that doesn't represent Halloween, I don't know what does. Those 3 iconic characters of just the Halloween season. And the sculptures they did on the 3 masks. Of course, Pat Newman sculpted the original skull, and Jim Lawrence sculpted the original Hagatha witch that predated the 83 Green Witch. The pumpkin was sculpted just for the film. It didn't exist, so they made a 3rd mask, and it is, like, to me, one of the greatest masks of all time. It is so Halloween-y, dare I say. It's the sculpt on that jack-o'-lantern is everything to me. And the thing about the Fangoria ad, it was so weird the picture of the person wearing it in the ad, you could see their eyes, and it just looked so strange to me. The way the tongue was in the mask, it was just a weird looking ad. Staring at these three little photos at the top, and in the picture of the jack-o'-lantern, it was like you could see this was one eye was darker than the other in the photo, so all you seen was one kind of eye hole on that picture, and it was really just, as a kid, I thought it looked so weird, you know. And man, of course, I always loved the Don Post skull. So these masks are definitely quite rare. Years ago they were very rare, and then in the past 5 or 6 years, more of them started popping up out of the woodwork. I actually have a secret Facebook group called the Halloween 3 Mask Archives or something like that, where I was literally archiving every single copy that surfaced of the pumpkin and the witch and the skulls, because the skulls are quite unique compared to all of the other Don Post skulls out there. And at the time, there was probably like 7 or 8 pumpkins, maybe 9 witches. Like, there weren't many. Back in the day, I remember maybe 12, 14 years ago, I remember seeing a witch, you know, sell on eBay for $500 or $600. I'm like, that's crazy. That's so expensive, you know, not knowing where these would end up in price someday. They've fluctuated quite a bit over the years. They've went way up and down and up and down and up and down. And, you know, let's face it, the world is crazy these days. Prices of rubber masks are not what they used to be 5 years ago. So things are definitely down. And that's a great thing. That's a great thing for collectors like myself. I don't want to pay through the nose for every piece I want to collect and I love, you know. So when the market drops a little bit, I'm fine with it. This collection, of course, the collection's worth way more than when I started, but that's not why I do this. I don't do this for the money. I do it for my love of the Halloween mask. And these masks you're seeing right now on camera are the ones I would say I've loved the most since the beginning. And it's funny because a lot of the older guys in the hobby really don't care about these at all. You know, the older guys that are into the Universal monsters, they can give a crap about the Halloween 3 masks. And I think it's funny, but you had to be there at that point in time in 1982, reading Fangoria, being a kid, you know, being a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old, looking at those images that are burned into my brain from that magazine. They had little Buddy on the floor with a freaking snake coming out of his mouth and bugs everywhere. And seeing that before I even saw the movie, I'm like, what is going on? This is insane, you know? Not knowing, you know, later on I'd see it and it's so hokey and awesome and amazing. It's not terrifying in any way. But damn, I love that film. I love it more than most movies I've ever seen in my life. So, and it all stems back to being a kid back in the day and wanting these masks so bad. And the movie itself is just crazy. It's a lot of people hated it. That's why these masks are quite rare. The movie was somewhat of a flop. Everyone could not stand the fact that there was no Michael Myers, you know. But don't worry, Myers people, back in 82, you're going to get 50 more movies with that guy in it. It's going to be amazing. Oh, and the last one's going to be great. Speaking of flops, woohoo! You Myers people out there, I didn't think anybody could top the final episode of Game of Thrones. So that, my friends, is a rare group of masks you're looking at. Those of you that know, I've done a video on all of the masks in the film in the past. So I'm not going to get too insane into details, but this one is titled Pumpkinhead. This is the Green Witch. It's not the Halloween 3 Witch. It's not the Halloween 3 Pumpkin. Pumpkinhead, Green Witch, Skull. And some of the most iconic masks ever produced are right in front of us here. what makes the Halloween 3 skulls different than all of the other Don Post skulls, I mean, they're a little different. The big difference is they came out with the amazing shamrock tags that these masks were produced with. If you bought a Halloween 3 mask back in the day, it would come with this cool, shiny, foil shamrock tag, perforated. You pop that sucker off and glue it to your mask. Just like in the film, you saw them on the back of some of the masks in the scenes. For the longest time, collectors now, like these days, modern day collectors, we never knew if the Don Post skull actually came with a shamrock tag like this. And all of a sudden, years later, out of nowhere, one popped up with that shamrock tag attached to it. And it was, I don't know if it was the first one I got, but it was crazy. We're like, holy cow, it was indeed tagged with that shamrock. That's something I never really asked anybody from Don Post Studios back in the day, but we always wondered. So, on screen, it was not this glow-in-the-dark version. I'll make this fast because all this info is out there. I've said it before. This is a glow-in-the-dark mask. On screen, it was a jumbo white skull. The old school jumbo Don Post skulls were used. All over the movie, you'll see the white skulls like that. However, if you ordered the mask in 82, 83, or bought it at a costume shop, it was this glow-in-the-dark version, okay? With that shamrock tag. The pumpkin and the witch were day glow paints. They were not glow in the dark. They started making them in 82 and continued them into 83. I think by 84 they were coming out with the smaller Smiling Jack pumpkin that some of you have. These masks are the reason I know, like I figured this out a long time ago. I think I said it in one of my old videos. You'll hear me saying like, oh, this mask has the 81, 82 tag. These masks have the 83 care tags, okay? The Halloween 3 masks are the masks that helped me figure all that out. Like what years those tags were from. Because I've had original pumpkins and witches with the black and white tags with shamrocks. I've had them with the blue and white tags with shamrocks. Boom, that told me that 82 was the white tags, 83 was the blue tags. And that was the transition of the care tag for Don Post Studios. 1983, that's the new one, and the old one was the black and white one. Probably used in 81, 82, and these were 83. Mostly just 83, I think. But that's how I know that when I tell you, oh, this has an 82 tag, blah, blah, blah. That's how I knew it. It was because of the Halloween 3 masks. They came with both versions. These masks here, the pumpkin and the witch, were painted with powdered pigments. I remember back in the day, a Don Post collector, I was going nuts, okay? I started buying up every pumpkin and witch I could. Every one that surfaced, I would get my hands on it. I'd pay some steep prices over the years. And one collector said, why are you buying all of those? Like, what's the deal? How come you're doing this? And I said, because when you get one in your hands, there's nothing like it. There's all these recasts out there. There are these masks that, independent mask makers have issued over the years. None of them are like the originals. The originals were painted with that powder pigment, and they've got this feel to them and this look to them that no one has reproduced to this day. So a lot of people have tried to replicate, these paint jobs over the years. It's very tough. It's very highly toxic. I do not recommend it. I did it. I nailed it. I did a pumpkin. I restored a pumpkin with the powdered pigment, and it came out pretty damn perfect. I've seen some recent ones people have done. They look super orange and beautiful. I had one in my hand someone bought recently, but when I felt it, I go, it just doesn't have that feel. It looks killer. It looks exactly the way it should. But once I felt it, I go, yeah, it's not powdered pigment. You could just tell it's paint. The powdered masks have that that dry, like powdery feel to them. It's strange. It's hard to explain, but until you own one of these, you'll never know what they feel like. It's just a strange finish on them. But not many people give two shits about that. Like, they look beautiful. There's repaints out there that are gorgeous. But I did get the powdered pigment down. I nailed it. Anyway, that's getting into strange details that not many people will ever care to hear. But that's a beautiful sight, especially this 30th evening of October. Tomorrow's Halloween. A lot of people probably thought I was doing these tomorrow, but no, there's going to be one single mask on tomorrow's episode. Only one. We're not doing it on 3 or 4. One mask, baby, and that's it. The most special mask in this room I saved for last. So, hope you enjoyed this video. Halloween 3 rules. One of my favorite films of all time. I don't care what anybody says. Like we need more Michael Myers in movies, right? Oh my God, stop making Myers films, please. That last one, I didn't even watch it, but go read anything out there on the internet on it, and that'll pretty much tell you all about that film. Thank goodness it wasn't a Myers film. However, Michael Myers was actually in the movie for a split second. Those of you that cry, Michael Myers is not in the movie. Yeah, he is. He's on TV in the commercial for the movie. Watch it again. You'll see. Tomorrow is Halloween. I'm excited. Tell me in the comments if you love Halloween 3, or tell me if you absolutely hate it. It has a huge cult following now. I've heard there's talks of remaking this film. Why? Do not remake Halloween 3. There's no reason to remake it. You can't put Cochran back in it. Like, just, why are you people doing this? Hollywood, instead of spending all this time remaking everything, go sit down at a desk, drink some coffee, and think up of your own stuff. Think of something more original, please. Quit remaking all these films and ruining them. I could just see it now. CGI snakes coming out and bugs. Oh, we don't want to pay for practical effects, you know, because they're too cheap for practical effects. So they'll have CGI, you know, spiders flying out of the eyeballs and snakes coming out and melting everywhere, and it's just, God. Those of you working in Hollywood watching this, real horror buffs cannot stand CGI. All right, go back to practical effects, please. Go watch The Void over and over and over, and then get back to me. Then go make your movies like that, and I will watch them all day long. In 2012, Don Post re-released these masks, and it was a big, exciting thing. Everyone was so hyped up. But man, when you got them in your hands, they were quite different. Okay, I mean, there's no comparison to the originals, and that's why I was buying them up. I was addicted to buying them. Seeing an H3 mask, there's some guys out there that have the same feeling I do. When they see these masks, it really grabs you and brings you right back to 1982. And you're like, I cannot believe I have an original pumpkin or an original witch. You know, it's like this crazy feeling. Especially scoring them around the month of October is always so awesome. So at one time I had nearly 5 complete sets. Okay, I'll show you some old photos. And the shelves back there were lined up with pumpkins and witches. And I was kind of going off the deep end, buying all of them I could. And I'm going to get into differences between standard production pumpkins and some that were screen used, okay? That actually could have been on screen during that film. So there's something I've talked about in the hobby several times. It's the whole thing about guys offering crazy prices to it kind of can ruin the market, okay? It can make other people angry. It's made me angry at times. Okay, I've seen people offering stupid money on certain things. Then all of a sudden, everyone thinks their mask is worth that much. And, you know, some guys go nuts. Like, why are they doing that? Well, I have to fess up to something that I don't think I've ever told anyone. Myself and another collector out there who's not really in the scene much anymore, a friend of mine who's from the area, we were insane about this film. Both of us have the same feelings about Halloween 3. And back in the day, before I had all those masks, we were on the hunt, okay? He and I were on the hunt to score original pumpkins and witches. The skulls, you know, at the time we were just using the jumbo skulls for our collections, but they were so elusive. They were so rare. He would go day and night looking through collection photos and going through all the HMA archives. And he finally found a couple guys that had a pumpkin and a witch here and there. And old Don Post collectors from, you know, like the 90s, early 2000s. This is going back to probably 2010. And he goes, I found them, but they won't sell them. They will not sell these masks. You know, and I'm like, God, like, did you offer them, you know, this, try offering this much. We'd offer this crazy price. And they're like, no. Like, people love these so much, they do not want to let them go. I get it. I totally get it. At the time, you know, the masks were not, they weren't coming off these masks. And he would say, what do you want to do? We got to get these masks. We have never had them. All we do is talk about the Halloween 3 masks. Let's make a crazy offer. I'm like, let's do it. And he and I offered some stupid amount, you know, like a few $1,000s at the time. And sure enough, they're like, okay, we'll sell these masks. And we created this crazy pricing that took off with the Halloween 3 masks. We're the ones that started offering big on these things, and we finally got the collectors to let them go. And it was the first time I ever paid money like that for a mask in my life. I'm like, what, are we crazy? But we wanted them so bad. And we each had a pumpkin coming from 2 different people. We both offered stupid money on them. And I remember mine came in and it was way nicer than his. And I was like, ha. So, I mean, I've done it. Everyone's probably done it that really wanted something. And that goes for any hobby out there. I've seen guys offer insane money on cars, you know, real muscle cars, paying way more than they're worth. Go watch Barrett Jackson anytime it's on your television. You'll see just that happening. You know, cars selling for insane amounts of money. And though there's guys out there crying in that hobby too, you know, oh, these a-holes are paying $250,000 for this, you know, 446 pack car. And it's like, why are you crying? You wouldn't buy it if it was 150. So just right. So just stop, you know. There's always going to be people crying about stuff, but I've complained about the whole price thing where people offer stupid money, but my buddy and I were the first ones to offer steep pricing on Halloween 3 masks. That continued for quite a while, but things have come down. Things are definitely down from the old days. And, you know, then all of a sudden you see collectors, well, you'll see people stumble upon a horde of witches. What, 2 or 3 years ago? That lady and her wonderful son found like 10 or so green witches and Hagathas. They always fall into like the wrong hands. They never end up in like collectors' hands. Like they ended up in people's hands that wanted to price gouge to the last frickin' penny and pull it out of all your collector asses and not even deal on them. You know, like they were bringing good money. I know. I knew guys that would spend just stop. I knew guys that would buy like 3 masks from them, spending thousands, and say, they didn't say that, but they'd say, hey, can you come off a couple $100 on the last one? Nope. You want it or not? It's like, Jesus. Wonderful people. It sucks when those types of things end up in those types of hands and not someone in the hobby that truly love them and would love to get them in collectors' hands for a better price and not, literally stick it hard into you guys. It's just disgusting. But anyway, it is what it is. Oh God, what are you doing? Anyway, back to the masks. People like that come and go in this hobby. They discover our hobby. They discover that these masks can be rare. They show up just to feed on us, Let's take advantage of these people that love these things. Sounds like a great idea. Anyway, what a beautiful... So this is probably one of the greatest pumpkins known as far as the quality of it. It is perfect, near perfect. It's one that I had foam filled. I saw a pumpkin foamed in the past and it didn't come out that great, so I was so nervous to have this thing foam filled. But my friend did a perfect job on it. It came out great. And that, my friends, is a beautiful quality pumpkin head from 1983. So in 1982, pumpkins that were seen on screen during the filming of Halloween 3 had had a silver shamrock on the side of them. Down on the, depending on if you're wearing it, down on the right side of that mask, okay? Production masks later did not have that shamrock. See that? It's not there. But masks that were on screen at the time, and that's the thing with screen-used pumpkins, screen-used witches, they could have been on screen. They could have been in boxes in those scenes. You'll never know, okay? But if you do have a pumpkin with that shamrock on the side, I'd say it's probably a 75% chance that it was on screen during the filming of the Shamrock Factory scenes where they show all those masks on the racks. And that shamrock looks like this. That's the elusive silver shamrock on the pumpkin head mask. That is a real one. This is a genuine copy. My friend got these masks in his collection many years ago, in 82. The way my friend collected, he was an important collector since the 70s. I mean, his masks were all special. He had a lot of them customized by people at the factory. When you're that passionate of a collector, especially back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, the people at Don Post would call you and say, hey, we got a prototype for you or a special mask. Do you want it? And they literally want you to have it. What? Go away. So I'm trying to remember the story, but he told me when we were looking at these masks, he said it was the two in the back. Let me move this guy out of the way. Somebody, during the filming of Halloween 3, somebody from Don Post sent him these masks, okay? So it's a good, there's people out there that come up with stories like, oh, mine was definitely used on the film. It had this letter with it. You never know, okay? I recently saw one of these pumpkins sell on an auction site that sold on a famous prop auction site, okay? And they sold it as screen used. Like, this is a screen used prop from Halloween 3. And I'm like, wow, that's funny. And someone bought the mask from a lady. Someone bought the mask from a lady who claimed to be part of the film or connected to the film, and said that Stan Winston gave her the pumpkin, which made no sense to me. To my knowledge, Stan Winston had nothing to do with Halloween 3. It was a Tommy Lee Wallace joint, from what I remember. So it was very, very odd. And a collector bought that mask. A collector that kept coming to me, wanting to buy pumpkins, wanting to trade me stuff for my pumpkin. I would not let it go. He's got to have a screen used pumpkin. So he gets this pumpkin from some lady with some letter, and claims that Stan Winston gave it to her. And then all of a sudden, it's on a prop website, sold as a screen used mask. And I'm like, holy shit. Wow. Okay. If this one was if you can say this is probably screen used, but you have no proof of it. Okay. And after reading that whole deal with that Stan Winston letter, I decided to triple check. In my brain, I know there was no way he had anything to do with the film. So I went to his IMDb. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way I don't know something about Stan Winston being a part of Halloween 3. There's no, so I looked through his special effects, his career in special effects. I looked up him as a producer, a director, an actor, a writer, art department, assistant director, visual effects, down to the costume department, and even special thanks. And there ain't one thing listed that Stan Winston had anything to do with Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. So, just a little strange that, someone out there convinced a prop business that he did have something to do with that movie just because some lady had a letter stating that. Hell, I can write you a letter tomorrow saying Arnold Schwarzenegger was my uncle and I've got a screen used jockstrap from Commando that he wore in a stunt scene. Anyway, these are beautiful pumpkins. Most people in the hobby feel if you have a shamrock pumpkin, which is very rare, that indeed is likely a screen used piece. Again, I could say all day long, yep, that's screen used. It's a screen used pumpkin. How the hell would I know, But there were lots of them in those scenes, in those factory scenes with shamrocks that got shipped out. This probably was on film. There's no way to tell, unfortunately. Still, it is a gorgeous pumpkin. The majority of known pumpkins in the hobby, like I was saying, the pumpkins are rare. The witches are rare. A majority of the known pumpkins in existence do not have shamrocks. Isn't that weird? I've only seen, 2, maybe 3 ever with a shamrock on the side. So here's the story on the shamrock, by the way. This is not a too well-known tidbit, unless you actually read out there. Here's the story on the shamrock. Johnny Johnson was the head mold maker at the time for Dompo Studios. He added the shamrock with clay to the side of the foamed master just before the filming of Halloween 3. So the film people wanted a shamrock, but then later came up with their own, which was the microchips seen in the film. Johnny's was then obsolete, but the mold was already made, and Johnny's shamrock was there to stay. So they use it in the film. Supposedly there's a mix with some pumpkins without the shamrock. That shamrock was seen throughout the film quite a bit. I don't even remember seeing any pumpkins without it. So both pumpkins, shamrock or not, came from the same foam master. There's guys out there that will say, oh, this pumpkin's from this 82 mold. This other one's from this 83 mold. I see little differences. They're all from the same foam master. There may be things that were, omitted because they wore off here and there through molding processes, but they all came from the same foam master, okay? So that's the story on that shamrock. Johnny Johnson, he was the head mold maker at the time, added that shamrock with clay. The film people then said, we don't want it there, but hey, too late. It was used. They threw the microchips in anyway in the film. It was supposedly obsolete, but it was definitely on film. So I think after the fact, when that mold wore out, okay, they then made a bunch of them without the shamrock when people bought them and ordered them. You know, there was a lot on screen, but that wasn't enough to ship out all over the world or all over the country. You know, count how many you see in the movie. That's definitely not enough to supply everyone out there, you know, at every costume shop across the country. So that's a good, that might make a lot more sense to me. That's why there's not many Shamrock masks. You know, they were on screen, Shamrock mold wore out, they made a new one without it. I don't know. I wasn't there, but that's good information. Like this one here. And this is one of them. I've known about this mask for quite a while. It was in my friend's collection. Like I said, somebody at Don Post, I don't even know who it was. I'm trying to get in my old phone because he and I did all of this message, voice memos and whatnot. And I had all these messages and notes in there on a lot of the masks we would talk about. And I'm hoping that's in my notes somewhere, that who sent him those masks from Don Post Studios. I'm locked out of the phone, so I really, at the moment, I don't have that information, but I'm hoping I can get into it soon and go over all my stuff in there. As you may have guessed, my friend is no longer with us. That's a whole nother story, and someday I will share with you one of the greatest collections that no one has ever seen. That will be a long time from now, but you will see it eventually. Back to these masks. The Green Witch, they have these strange bluish, these grayish blue hoods on them. We'll pull her up off there. And they're all these very unique colored hoods that no one can seem to find a match to remake these hoods these days. It's looking a little bluer on camera right now than it actually is. But this is a really nice piece. This old girl needed some help. She had a thin layer of mold starting to grow on her. I removed 90% of it. I'm still working on her. But beautiful witch. When I originally found her, my friend and I found her in a factory Don Post clear bag, stuffed away in a box, out of the light and elements for decades. So she is pretty much brand new. She just needs a little more cleaning and she'll be tip top, I think. But very nice shape on her. And her one eye needs a little bit of training there. You can kind of, if you own any witches like this and one of the eyes is a little droopy like that, they should have that nice, you know, oval shaped eyeball. And that really makes it have that feature of these old witches. When one of the eyes is off like that, it throws off the look. You can push it up, it pops down. See that? So you can actually ball up little balls of felt, like black felt, and place it inside this eye socket so it holds that up, and leave it in there for like a year. And it should retrain that latex to stay up like that, you know, and it'll stay more in place, and it'll solve that little drooping issue. Most of the time it will help. Sometimes it won't. If it's too severe, it won't retrain that latex to go in place, but that's one way of doing it. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I know a lot of people hate this film, but it has more fans than ever these days. There are more Halloween 3 fans out there. When you go on the Facebook group, those people are totally insane. There's a lot of crackpots there with all these horrible memes, and it's all in fun. But you're like, where do these people come from? They were not watching this film in '83. They're a bunch of kids, a lot of young people. It just blows my mind that it has so much love today. There's those people, but then there's a big group of us that loved this back in '82, '83, and that's that special love for this film that it can't be replicated, kids. We were there. Nose deep in Fangoria, looking at that famous photo of little Buddy laying on the ground with that snake coming out of his mouth. Classic stuff. So, if any of you out there come across this video and have original masks like this, please get in touch with me. I'm a serious buyer of witches and pumpkins. even the skulls. More have surfaced over the years. Like I said, they are still very rare, but not as rare as they used to be. Prices have definitely come down a bit. See that eyeball? It's driving me nuts now. I'm definitely going to put some felt in there and fix that and get it perfect. I'm going to have my friend foam fill this pumpkin for me to keep it preserved nicely and get he had the mouth perfect on that one. He got the shape perfect. He's got all the features real nice. Basically, when the foam is curing, if you just push in on that mouth a little bit, it'll correct a lot of that puffiness and make it stay in place. I may actually foam fill this green witch. She's very nice. I want to keep her that way. I'm going to fix her eye. And once I foam her, it should stay like that. I'll put the black felt behind her eyes. And I may do it in small increments and get her face full of, it'll be like a half mask full of foam. I'm not filling the entire hood full of foam. It'll be like just behind the whole face. Okay. And I'll probably mount her on a pedestal. As you can see, this one here has fine little cracking in the paint over time, but the mask is in beautiful condition. The powdered pigment is very nice and thick on this one. It's super green, just like this pumpkin has intense orange paint. This witch here, this green witch, has 2 shamrock tags, one on the front, one on the back. Originals, pretty cool. I want to study that film like a hawk and see if there's any I spot in the movie where some kid had one with 2 tags on it. Just weird things mask collectors do to try to find some provenance of the mask they have, to try to discover if it was actually on screen. It's so tough. But to say you had a screen used pumpkin, those of you out there that hear that term and wonder if their pumpkin or their witch was on screen, at least with the pumpkins, you watch that film, you see that, okay? Even when Cochran puts the mask on little buddy's head, I've slowed this down and showed people on the internet. You'll see the shamrock, but they have it orange, like they didn't put the silver paint on it. Like they didn't want that taking away from that close-up shot, so they left the silver paint off of it. But it was indeed embossed in the side of that casting. So, just really cool. This one has that iconic shape, that long elongated type of shape, like the 82 pumpkins have. Billy and I have kind of talked about this over the years, and we thought like the 82s were more elongated like this, and the 83s were more rounded, like that dude. So just some interesting little details I wanted to talk about. And just because something on eBay or even a very famous prop website is going to tell you that something is screen used, somebody may have conjured that up and did that to extract way more money out of some poor soul out there that really has no knowledge of what they're buying. You got to be careful. If you see anything like that pop up for sale and are wondering, is it real? Is it screen used? Blah, blah, blah. Reach out to me. We'll try to figure it out between the two of us. And I hate seeing people get taken for things, especially in this hobby. There's a lot of scammers out there.
Nice try.
I'm excited. Halloween's right around the corner. We're hours away from Halloween now. And I couldn't wait to go over some of these beautiful Halloween 3 masks with you. Talk about some of the details, some of the myths about, screen used pieces. And I hope you guys enjoyed this, because I love these masks more than most things in this entire room. These are so special to me. And boy, I chased them down a lot over the years and finally ended up scoring them later in life. And they're incredible. So thank you very much. I'll see you guys tomorrow on Halloween.
Halloween, 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 Halloween.
All you lucky kids with silver shamrock masks, gather round your TV set, put on your masks, and watch.
Honey, don't get too close. You'll ruin your eyes.